Well, there we are at 8:30 the next fucking morning. Oh, you hear that? Yeah, the fucking fan in the almost non-removable power supply decided that it doesn't like that kind. So either the heat killed it or something, but it needs to be oiled. The story with this power supply goes that originally this machine came with a micro ATX power supply, and it had some sort of bracket that fit in here, and somehow, I don't know what the fuck goofery they did, they used a micro ATX power supply in this machine. For the life of me, I still don't know why. At the time, when I was at Tiny Middle, this regular full-size ATX power supply was on sale for something like $10 after mail-in rebate. Some sort of like ridiculously inexpensive price. And I said, well, it's an old fucking piece of shit. Why should I spend anything more than old piece of shit prices, you know? So I bought that and shoehorned it in here. Well, at the time, the fad was for power supplies to have a 120 millimeter fan mounted on the broad side of them. In other words, not this side, but like underneath here. Because this is not designed to take a regular size power supply, the fan points up to the case here where there's virtually no airflow. So I have to remove this power supply anyway. And as far as I remember, it is otherwise a standard ATX mount. But as long as I'm doing that, I might as well just put an old junker in there instead, because this power supply that's in there is a 24-pin jobby. I don't need that. And I should have some 20-pin jobbers in here with an 80 millimeter fan on the back. So instead of just vents there, and the fan up here pointing up where it's useless, there will be slots there, which you see, and I guess some airflow through them to an 80 millimeter fan, which would be blowing out the back, and it'll actually get cooled. I guess I get to get two birds stoned at once this way, but it's a lot more work because I didn't want to take out the damn power supply. Maybe this will give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. See how the fan was just up against the metal of the case? See it there? I had to move the CD-ROM. That reminded me that one of the screws for it was stripped out, that I think I did accidentally while installing the supply because it wasn't meant to fit. Because the original micro ATX supply died. You can get the supply, see, if this weren't rounded, it would be a lot easier, but you have to just angle it perfectly, and now the supply is there, and with some more finagling I can rip it out of there, because now it's caught on the switch over there, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun here. And the wires, everything is just super tight, you know. That looks like about a 92 millimeter fan. Here's what's left of an 80. Yeah, it's a 92 millimeter, because you can see it doesn't go there. So it's a 92 mil fan, which aren't as common. I'd hate to have to open the whole supply up. Might be able to take 3 screws out and pivot the guard out of the way, oil it, and then put it back. I think I might try that, but this one's a little roasty. For that matter, it might pay to actually open it and look at the bulging caps, you know. See, the whole premise behind the supply and the way the fan is mounted is it was supposed to suck air through the back and blow it down over the hot processor. But that wasn't the way cases were designed to begin with. you know, it just didn't work that way. And because this machine, I had to mount the supply upside down, because that's how the bolt holes line up for it, because again, it used to take a micro ATX, the fan would blow up. But again, this supply was so dirt cheap that, you know, it made sense. And it lasted for years. You know, not that this was in any kind of service, really, but even so. Anyway, here's a shitty supply. Got my little thing in it. The fan runs. I can feel airflow. Wow, this thing might actually run cool for a change. Damn, I just gotta watch I don't damage that capacitor right there. And the other ones here as well, getting that installed. Fan runs nice for now, and I'm gonna regret saying this. I should open this up and oil the fan just to be sure before I install it, so I don't have to go through this again, but I'm not gonna. I'll oil the other fan, and then that way I can have that in service, but as it was, this was a 250 watt power supply. I don't know if there's a date on it, but I would expect it would be from 03, 04 or 04 maybe. Somewhere in there. It did its thing. High Pro. Make the switch to. Or Hip Pro, depending. The hardest part is getting these cables in there like that. Then you have to like just shove it, move it just to clear. Hopefully you can see right there the IEC connector is like right up against that. And then you get to this point where that's in, and then you have to wiggle it around. Of course, this is only one hand. And eventually get it shoved up to where it's supposed to go here. And it looks like it always belonged. That is fucking brilliant. Look, the screw holes line up. This one went in 10 times easier than that other one. That was great. I mean, you still have very tight quarters to try to plug in the Molex connector here for the optical drive, and then, of course, you know, got to mount that back up. But that's it. Looks like the new supply is in, and let me get everything connected. Alright, we're all mounted up. Drive is back. You can see there's not much clearance there, but there is. You see, I could fit my whole hand back in there, and there is the width of my fingers for air to get in there and be exhausted out the back, which is 1,000 times better than the old supply. So let me put this full thing back over here, this guy and this guy, and then we'll give it a run up with the new supply. See how it's upside down, but the fan is on the back. Switch. We have post. Sounds more of a jet engine now, but there is certainly airflow there. Maybe the camera will hear it. That is fucking awesome, because there's actually airflow now instead of not. See? You can see the gap where the air can get to. Be nicer if the bottom of the supply were open, but it's not. You know, I mean, this is shoehorning a regular ATX supply into a micro ATX opening, and of course, if I had the bracket that adapted that back to micro ATX anymore, then of course now I just have a spare micro ATX supply I could have popped in